Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Chainsaw Man. Volume 11, the final volume of Part 1, was just released in English a couple weeks ago, so now I have the whole series in its entirety so far. Chainsaw Man is one of my all-time favorite manga, and with Part 2 of the manga and the anime adaptation coming out sometime in the next few months, presumably, I thought now would be a good time to talk about the top 10 moments that completely and utterly wrecked me. Now, this isn't all going to be sad and devastating moments from the series, because heaven knows there are way too many to talk about in just one video, so I decided to talk about the moments that made me feel a lot, whether it be bad emotions or good. And being honest, it's gonna be a lot of bad. Oh, also, major spoiler alert, if that wasn't already a given. If you haven't read this series yet and don't want things spoiled, you can just, I don't know, leave. If you don't care about spoilers, sure, pop off, live your best life. So let's get started with number 10, when Aki takes a knife for Denji in chapter 18. Since the beginning of the series, the two have not had the best of relationships, getting into several verbal arguments and physical fights. But when under threat of being trapped in a building for eternity unless Denji is fed to a devil, other devil hunters attack him and are about to kill him when they are blocked by Aki. Sure, technically Aki doesn't really care if Denji lives or dies, but rather claims he needs him to help him kill the gun devil, but this is the moment when I started to care for Aki. I thought, dang, this guy has potential. Maybe he is more complex than I realized and not just a total douche. Thankfully, I was right. Sad moment number 9 on the train going to Depression Station is the death of Aki's family in chapter 13. It shows how his whole family was killed by the gun devil, thus establishing his motivations for becoming a devil hunter. While sad, I didn't really feel that much for Aki at first. It was like, oh, another typical standoffish character who wants revenge, how original. While this moment is made even more impactful upon a secondary reading, after volume 9 especially, what really impacted me with this part of the manga was the art. The destruction of Aki's family house by the gun devil is actually beautiful. Beautiful destruction. Not in a, wow, I am like the Joker and I just want to watch the world burn, because I think it's pretty kind of way, but you have to appreciate all of the detail on the composition of this shot. It is beautifully rendered, but within the context of the actual scene, absolutely heartbreaking. It is that mix of emotions for me, of awe and of sadness, that makes me feel so strongly about this scene. Number 8 is just a few chapters later when some devil hunters die. We were just introduced to a few new characters. Some had appeared in the previous story arc, and a few more we had just met. I was super duper excited to learn more about them, but instead, they mostly all get shot. Arai? Dead. Kushi? Dead. These two guys whose names I couldn't find? Dead. Himeno? Dead. Technically, Himeno's death was separate from everyone else's, but I'm just kind of smushing them in together. Also technically, this shouldn't be sad from an objective standpoint, since we don't really know some of these characters, but this moment was really surprising to me, and was what hooked me on the manga. It was so shocking to see all these characters suddenly die. That's kinda why it was done, to be shocking. Sure, these people may totally be cannon fodder, except for Himeno, that one was pretty sad. But the fact that they mostly just died from being shot by guns, not fighting a super cool and dangerous devil, dying in the process, is kinda sad. This one just hit me hard, that's all. Number 7 is another sweet moment between the two bestest bros, Denji and Aki. Look how happy they look. Wonder what they're doing? Let me zoom out a bit. Yep, they are kicking Katana Man in the balls. Look at them having fun. Look at their friendship growing by getting vengeance for their dead friend Himeno. Ain't that sweet? How sweet. Number 6 of our list of why, oh why are you doing this to us, Fujimoto-sensei, is from the Bomb Devil arc with one of the strongest competitors for Best Girl, Rez. Rez? I don't know. At the end of the arc, Denji defeats Rez by tying her with him and having them sink to the bottom of the ocean, with the assumption that she can't explode when she's wet. Good assumption. The two wake up on the beach much later in their human forms, having been saved by the shark fiend Beam, and Denji asks Rez if she would like to run away with him. She responds as most people would, by breaking his neck and leaving. But Denji actually liked her. Even though she killed like so many people and was overall a very terrifying and dangerous person, he looked past that and chose to remember their fun times together, even if they were just a lie. Disclaimer, I think if you get a crush on a mass murderer, you shouldn't look past that, but Denji's innocence is just too sad. Laying on the beach with his neck broken, Denji yells out, "I'll be at the cafe at noon." And Rez is like, whatever, see ya. But we see through her actions, not through her words, that she actually thought about it. That she actually was considering going to meet Denji. That maybe she actually grew attached to him and started to like him a little bit. She sees the cafe from a distance. And then dies. So freaking close. And I just imagine what the manga could have been like if she had gone there, and how different things would have been in the ending. Okay, number 5 on this list is one of the most insane things I've ever read. Not just in a manga, but also comics, books, and any other media. This big-ass hand drops from the sky, picks up a bunch of devil hunters and fiends, and just drops them in hell. And hell does not look the way you'd think. It looks like Monsters Inc. for some reason, but that only adds to the scariness. The Darkness Devil shows up and destroys everyone. And when I say destroys, I mean everyone loses their arms immediately. No one stands a chance, and several of the people who went there don't come back. When they eventually get out of hell thanks to Makima, I thought that everyone would come back or something. But nope, those characters are gone for good. Not even all the arms that were lost were able to be reattached. So it's not like a vision or some metaphorical experience that they went through. This was all real. They actually went to hell, lost their arms, died. While this moment holds a #1 spot for most insane and mind-melting moments in the entire manga, it holds #5 because some other deaths made me way sadder. #4 isn't sad because of the importance of the characters who died, but rather the sheer number of victims. This happens when the Gun Devil appears for the second time. The first time is when it killed over 1 million people in 5 minutes. The Gun Devil appears again in the Gun Devil arc and kills hundreds of people in only 7 seconds. Not only do we see the Gun Devil killing people, seeing the destruction that follows, but we also see the names of all the victims. Seeing the names of all the people who died for no reason is just heartbreaking, and the amount of work that Fujimoto put into this is commendable. The third saddest thing in Chainsaw Man for me is just after the International Assassins arc, right after they all get back from hell. Power is clearly dealing with some severe and intense trauma from the experience. It is so sad to see this character we have grown to love, who has always been quite silly, still be silly, while dealing with these fears. Sure, she does seem like a child, and she always kinda has, but seeing her act as a shell of her former self is heartbreaking. Along with Power's trauma, I want to include her death. Gosh dang, that freaking hurt. That hurt so bad. You knew it was coming, you knew something was off, but when it happened, it still hurt. Denji had to watch his woman mommy crush or whatever kill one of his best friends right after his other best friend had just died. And yes, while she did come back, even if only for a short time, this moment where she was absolutely destroyed by Makima was wildly shocking and made me close the book and stare at a wall for a while. It was kind of like those scares in horror movies. The kind of scare that you know is going to be a jump scare, you know it's coming, you can feel it in your bones and your heart starts racing. But when it finally happens, it still startles you and your heart explodes. You know that feeling? #2 hurt me a lot, as Denji finally realizes that Makima never saw him. He was only a tool for her to use to achieve her goal, an object to be manipulated. Overall, the entire story of Chainsaw Man is about manipulation. We learn in the Control Devil arc, the final arc of part 1, that Makima has been manipulating all the events of the story, most especially Denji. She fabricated every aspect of his happiness, his friends, his job, his love interests, everything, just so that she could take it all away from him and break him, allowing the Chainsaw Man to be unleashed. Denji, who had been in love with Makima since the beginning of the story, realizes that not only did she not care about him, but that she didn't even really see him as a living being. This was sad because it was entirely relatable. Perhaps one of the most relatable things in this entire insane story of devils, zombies, wolf heads, and a guy with a little chainsaw for a head. There are actual people out there who manipulate others for their own uses. Those who don't care for or even see the people they are manipulating as people. Whew. That was kind of sad. Well, it is kind of the whole entire premise of the video, but whatever. I would like to take some time to give some shoutouts, some honorable mentions for a few scenes. The first honorable mention goes to the very first page of the very first chapter of Chainsaw Man. Denji, in order to pay off some of his debts, had to sell one of his nuts. Holy cow, that's pretty sad, dude. I can't really relate to that, but I'm gonna be brave and say that that's pretty unfortunate. The second honorable mention is the fact that Hirofumi Yoshida did not get as much screen time as he deserves. This dude is so cool. So much so that he placed 6th on the second popularity poll, and he only appeared in one arc. Fujimoto, we better get more of Hirofumi in part 2. Hopefully he'll also be older and out of high school, so that more people can simp over him and not feel bad. Okay, we finally made it to #1. The #1 saddest moment, I think, is kind of obvious. The death of Aki. Aki became a lot of people's favorite character, winning the top spot in the second popularity fan poll. He was also my favorite character, as he did a lot of the most badass things along with having some of the best emotional character arcs. From disliking Denji and Power at first to wanting to do anything to protect them just makes me feel so many emotions. So when he first became the gun fiend, when he became the very thing he swore to destroy, I knew some stuff was going to go down. His fight to the death with Denji is punctuated with looks into Aki's mind. The destruction due to the fight is juxtaposed with images of Aki having a snowball fight with Denji. Each snowball is a bullet. This fight is a perfect example of what Fujimoto excels at, portraying beautiful destruction, juxtaposing beauty and emotional moments with terrifying carnage. The heart-wrenching scene of Denji begging Aki to stop while Aki, in his mind, only sees it as a game gives the reader hope that he can snap out of this and help Denji. But that's not what happens. Becoming the gun fiend isn't a cool level up for Aki. Aki is killed by Denji, and Denji has to live with the pain and guilt of being forced to kill one of his best friends. This was the death that hit me the hardest. I felt like Aki and I had our own character arcs together. He had grown to love and care for others, and I had grown to love and care for him. Right as he became my favorite character, however, he was taken away from me by the greatest enemy to happiness, Tatsuki Fujimoto. So those are the top 10 moments in Chainsaw Man that made me feel more emotions than I thought I had. A video that was a long time coming. I've been so busy with school and work the past semester that this came out almost half a year after my last Chainsaw Man video. But I would like to thank everyone for watching. Chainsaw Man is one of my all-time favorite manga, and I hope that this video inspired you to, if you haven't, go read it, and if you already read it again.